But AMCU has ended the strike action at its Marikana mine today. This has aided the sector, which reduced GDP by 0.5% in the first 3 quarters of 2012. Now, Sejal Singh, who's lead analyst at COFAS, joins us as we unpack the country's GDP slump and the fall of the mining sector. Evening, Sejal. I suppose we've been so obsessed with the mining sector, we've just talked of it in terms of itself. And now perhaps it's a good time, given all the fuss and the drama, that we look at the effect of it on the economy.
Yes, Dave, very, very important. I know that mining and resources practically contribute about 10% directly to the GDP, but that's not what the important statistic is. We must also understand that financial services, which is a huge component, is also reliant on these resources and mining in general. So a drop in mining productivity will ultimately affect GDP regardless, not directly by output, but by support services as well. So that's a key thing to remember when we make these statements. And when we see spikes in mining productivity and we say things are getting better, 0.5% increase, decrease, is it really relevant if we're working off a poor base from last year? And that's something we shouldn't ignore as well. The reality is there are key problems and core problems, not only mining, it's also about efficiencies, it's also about productivity levels, and those need to all be addressed before we can say things are actually getting better. But short term, definitely not progress in that
Ian,
sector.
you said on the JSE, we can't take the resource out of the JSE, and what Sage was saying is obviously we can't take it out of the economy as well. Do you think this is fully appreciated in South Africa? Because it has changed in its contribution. I mean, we used to be an agriculture and mining country.
Yes.
So its contribution has decreased, but still very important. Do people appreciate this?
Not really. I think Sejal has just made a very important point. There's a mine and they say, well, it's a mine. If it closes, there's so many workers there. It's not. It's all the support factors. People who supply the iron and the steel and the coal and whatever else that makes it work. And the financial sector support services. It's a major, it contributes to a major part of employment and business activity in our economy. I think I'd just like to ask Sejal a question, if I may here, and say, look, if we carry on with this sort of impact and we find there's a stop, maybe we find the labour problem spread. It doesn't look like it now, but it happened last year unexpectedly and it could happen again. Yes. Are we really going to get any better GDP growth than that 2.7%, which the finance minister said, with downside potential? Could it be even less than that? What is your...
Well, I think you're phrasing it very optimistically. I mean, it could be a lot less than that.
Yes.
Very much so. To see 1% growth, I think, would be very optimistic.
So that's where you're seeing it now. Are you
Yes.
predicting 1% growth would be good?
Yeah. With current conditions, unless things get better, it's fine, always economists say, but on one hand and the other. The reality is, conditions as they are with no significant improvement, you're looking at about 1%.
But if you look at where we are, we've got the AMPLAT's announcement of the restructuring. That didn't go down well, although it would have been worse if they had stuck to the original plan. It's actually not the end. That's not a resolution. It's the beginning of the season. Yes. We've got double-digit wage demands. The mining executives are being accused of being confrontational. Nick Holland and Neil Froneman saying we're not going to do double digits. They're saying, why do you say that ahead of the negotiations? They're saying because it's true.
Yes.
So we look as if we're heading, Sejal, for a rough time. And then you have the danger of people are getting double-digit increases in gold and platinum. Why not coal? Why not Eskom? And they're on deadlines there.
Why not government employees?
Well, they already get them. Yeah. But,
yes.
I mean, this is the danger.
Yeah, the reality is labour costs are inflating ridiculously. Real wages need to come down to make the mines more profitable, to make them more attractive, to get that foreign direct investment in, and that's what's lacking. Business confidence index, it's a wishy-washy number and people don't really pay attention to it, but the reality is we need that capital in order to expand the sector. If we want to grow it, if we want to make things better, if we want to be more efficient, that's what we need to attract that FDI. At the moment, we are not as efficient. If you look at just from a pure skills point of view in core mining like iron ore, the reality is we export about 93% of that ore and then re-import steel. I mean, obviously, our balance of trade is put off just by that alone, and that's just a skills issue. So that's not even addressing the issue of unrealistic wage demands, of inefficiencies, of electricity problems, etc. So as it stands, things are not good. And just to think that a wage increase will keep labor quiet and then things will go back to the way they were is really unrealistic.
Do you get a sense that anyone has a grip on this? Because at the moment it's running, so you've got the unions, you've got the mine owners. Do you sense that there's somewhere behind the scenes, perhaps a task group, an individual, a minister who would be trying to deal with this?
Perhaps Trevor Manuel has a clue. And I'm not downgrading him because he's a wonderfully competent person. But when I have been going along to presentations and said, you know, there's a risk, GDP growth could be down to 2%, I'm dismissed outright by the captains of industry in South Africa. It's just not on their
But there is
table.
an obligation on the captains of industry to be patriotic and to talk up things. But
yes.
you're not paid to do that. You're paid to look in a hard-headed way. And I want to come back to that growth number. If you have a growth number of 1% or even below, and it does kind of follow if you look at mining's role in itself and in the economy. Tax revenues drop.
Yes.
All sorts of other impacts on the economy. What are they going to be?
It's a range. To pinpoint one and tell you that's the most important will be ridiculous. But the knock-on effect, it's confidence in the entire employment sector. When miners strike and when mines close and there's retrenchments in the mining sector, that creates a negative impact throughout the economy. People working in banks automatically feel that their jobs are not safe as well. The knock-on effect would affect retail. It's going to affect, normal productivity in terms of manufacturing. It's across the board. Mining and agriculture are the two key components in our economy.
Is there any white knight, black knight, magic wand, that a platinum price that suddenly roars up? Is there anything that can happen to rescue us from this scenario?
Realistically, if I even propose a solution, I'd be lying to you. Okay, people far brighter than me, I think, don't have a real understanding of the problem in totality, so there's no way of them finding a true solution. And me as well, I wouldn't even present an idea because I'd have to be completely idealistic and give you, these are the steps to take, and that's the solution we'd get. I think it's far more entrenched. It will have to be a solution from a basic education point of view in our economy, in our country, and improve that, improve skill sets, and from a government point of view, improve the understanding of the sector and what they can do.
Of course, there are a lot of things that have to happen for that, and as Hlelo Giyosi, who was on the show last night, was saying things really have to get to the brink before action is taken, and his view was, well, when we get to the brink, South Africans usually do take the action. We hope so. That was Sejal Singh, who is lead analyst at COFAS. And still with mining news, Amplat's workers have warned South Africa to brace itself for a protracted strike across the entire platinum sector should the company retrench a single worker. Well, the company is going to retrench a single worker. That follows the company's revised proposal to retrench 6,000 workers, down from the initial 14,000. Now, here's the chairperson of the Workers' Committee, Godfrey Lindani, and here's what he had to say.
We are here gathering today. We are having some of our comrades, they are already at Pretoria. They are going to negotiate this retrenchment thing. But the position stands, we tell it to the board of Anglo Platinum that one mistake, on Friday they come up with something fishy. Obviously, we are not going there. We are no longer going to work the whole platinum industry. I'm talking about the whole platinum industry in South Africa, and we want support from our government. Mr. Zuma must make sure that on Friday, he needs to be here. He needs to talk to the management of Anglo Platinum because we are going to tell him straight that, tell your guys that they are in South Africa, those guys from America, that they need to pack and go. We are the South Africans and we are not going to be shy about that. We rather die. We are already dead if they say they are retention 6,000 people.